Okay. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and call the August Planning Commission meeting to order. We got a couple of housekeeping items we're going to do. If Cody, if you will take a roll call for us.
All right, Miller.
Here.
Choate. Here. Mike. Here. Tom. Hadley. Here. Duffin. Here. Edgett. Cobb. Clear.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, I was asked at our agenda prep meeting on Tuesday to remind members of the Planning Commission to please use your microphones.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've got with us a while ago on that. So, do need to plug our mics in and where we can hear. All right. Okay. We're taking the attendance. Have everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting? If so, I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
Move to approve the minutes.
Okay. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the July meeting. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right. No old business here. We'll start with the new. All right. We have large-scale development located at 89 SR 331 submitted by Barrett & Associates on behalf of Duval Family Partnership, LLC. Victoria, you got a staff report on that?
Yes, sir. So as stated, this is a large-scale development at 89 State Route 331. Existing conditions, this is located within the East Main Commercial District. This is currently the location of Ashley Furniture Home Store. It was previously the location of Staples, as many of us remember it. The property is zoned C2 Highway Commercial, and all surrounding properties are also zoned C2. Surrounding uses include a truck stop, a vacant truck center, a fuel station, several restaurants, a variety of retail uses, and a pool hall. Article 7.2.1 of the Land Subdivision Development Code states that any development containing an existing building or buildings with a combined square footage of 15,000 gross square feet or larger triggers the large-scale development process. And Article 7.2.5 states that when the square footage of the proposed building addition or site is less than 20% of the existing building or site, the project is exempt from the large-scale development regulations. This addition, however, is over that 20% threshold and therefore is subject to complete the large-scale development process. The applicant has met all of the checklist items for the Land Subdivision Development Code, Article 7.4 for the large-scale development. During our site plan review, these are items that we will confirm with the building permits. Article 2.10.25 parking. There is a large existing striped parking lot, but we will get a parking analysis just to confirm that adequate parking will remain. Again, staff does not see any issue with this as they have a large parking lot, but that will be part of that site plan review. Article 3.22, commercial building and site design. Commercial building design will be confirmed when we receive elevations, and then site design does appear to be met. Article 3.23.13, sidewalks. We just need the applicant to confirm the valuation of the development, to confirm that it does not trigger those sidewalk requirements, and again, we'll do that with site plan review. Article 5, landscaping. This development does trigger the landscaping requirements per Article 5.3.1, as it is an addition over 20%. Article 5.7, street trees, requires one street tree every 50 feet of frontage. The applicant has met the street tree requirements. Article 5.8 is the street frontage buffer. This is a 10-foot wide buffer with 5 trees or 5 shrubs every 50 feet. The applicant has met the street frontage buffer requirements in regards to planting. However, it does not appear that they will meet the 10-foot in width requirement due to the existing perimeter parking, and a variance will be needed to be pursued for that if that 10-foot requirement cannot be met. 5.9, interior parking lot landscaping, requires a landscape island every 16 spaces. This is not applicable as the applicant is not proposing any new parking at this time. And then Article 5.10, perimeter buffer. This is a requirement to be 5 feet in width and requires one large tree or 2 small every 50 feet. The applicant does appear to have met the perimeter buffer requirements. As a result, it is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission approve the large-scale development to allow construction of a new commercial expansion as a result of the findings that the applicant has expressed their commitment to adhere to the zoning regulations, and the applicant demonstrates compliance with the regulations within Section 7 of the Land Subdivision and Development Code. Are there any questions for staff?
So the addition is all on the south side of the building behind McDonald's?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, do you have anything you wanted to add? Okay, Doug, you good? All right. All right, commissioners, what's your pleasure? Got any questions for anybody, or what's your,
I move we accept it as submitted and as recommended by staff.
okay, we have a motion
I second.
and a second. We have a motion and a second here to approve this large-scale development and as recommended by staff. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right. Item number 2. Thanks, Doug. All right, vacation of South Utica Avenue, right-of-way between 2008 West 2nd Street and 2120 West 2nd Street, submitted by Henderson Specialties on behalf of CNC Machinery Incorporated. Gavin, you got a staff report for us on that?
Yes, sir, we do. As stated, this is a vacation of right-of-way at 2008 East 2nd Street. This is for the entirety of the undeveloped portion of South Utica Avenue. This vacation encompasses the unimproved section of South Utica Avenue's right-of-way between blocks 11, 12, 29, 30, 34, and 35 of the Pointer Addition. Located along South Utica Avenue within the Airport Industrial District, this is currently an unimproved section of the right-of-way. This right-of-way runs between CNC Machinery property and city property leased by Americold to the east and Henderson Specialties to the west before dead-ending at the railroad right-of-way to the south. The zoning for this section of right-of-way and the surrounding properties on the east and west sides is M2 Heavy Industrial. To the north along the improved section of South Utica Avenue is C2 Highway Commercial. To the south beyond the railroad right-of-way is R2 Medium Density Residential. The lots south of the railroad right-of-way are currently undeveloped. The intent of this proposal is to vacate this section of right-of-way in order to allow for a new rear access to Americold property. 2008 East 2nd represents the adjacent applicant's address. Should this application be recommended approval by the Planning Commission and subsequently approved by City Council, the right-of-way would split down the middle and be granted to the adjacent property owners, in this case Mr. Henderson of Henderson Specialties, Mr. Corbin of CNC Machinery, and a small portion along the southeastern third of the right-of-way would go to the City of Russellville at Block 34. This would ostensibly provide a modest reduction in truck congestion along East Main Street and South Elmira Avenue. Americold Logistics' lease with the city would not be impacted. When considering a vacation, there are 3 questions that must be addressed during the application process. 1, what is the impact of the proposed vacation upon public trust functions of the right-of-way? What are the land use impacts regarding the vacation of right-of-way? And what public benefit is received by vacating the right-of-way? Starting, what is the impact of the proposed vacation upon public trust functions? This vacation would provide an alternative access to the Americold Industrial Campus for semi-trucks should it be developed and would be managed by adjacent private property owners. The additional access drive could, in theory, reduce the number of trucks needing to use the South Elmira Avenue entrance, providing for some traffic congestion relief at the intersection of East Main and South Elmira. Further, this right-of-way is not currently improved with any hard surface or aggregate and would be difficult to access by pedestrians. Additionally, the South Utica Avenue right-of-way dead ends at railroad right-of-way to the south and the property that is part of the Americold lease to the east, and so access to pedestrian uses or other opportunities would not be lost should the right-of-way be closed. What are the land use impacts regarding the vacation of this right-of-way? Land use impacts should theoretically be minimal. The intent for these pre-dedicated right-of-ways is to be paved and utilized as a street. Since this land is already set aside for this purpose, the impact of paving and utilizing this section of right-of-way after the vacation would be no different than if it were paved by the city, beyond the fact that it would then be for a private use instead of a public use. What public benefit may be received by vacating this right-of-way? Public benefit could be gained by reducing semi-truck congestion along the main thoroughfares of South Elmira Avenue and East Main Street. This could be a two-way benefit in the sense that commuter congestion may be relieved on East Main and South Elmira, and private truckers may experience some relief by virtue of needing to negotiate tight turns during heavy traffic hours less frequently. In light of this, staff does recommend that the commission forward this application to City Council for approval to vacate the unimproved portion of South Utica Avenue between blocks 11, 12, 29, 30, 34, and 35 of the Pointer Addition as a result of the findings that there is not an impact to the public trust, land use, or effects to the public benefit, and that letters from utility companies provided by the applicant release use of the area to be vacated. Are there any questions for staff?
On the utility releases, yeah, what, have we received those? I noticed that we'd noticed that we did receive them.
We received, I think, a couple of them. I know some utility providers are a little slower than others to respond. I know that during our technical review, City Corporation then and there said they have no interest in this right-of-way, and I do believe we received Entergy or Summit letter saying that they have no interest in the right-of-way.
Does the city have any plans to connect any of those two streets together?
At this-
I mean, there's several of them, looks like, across there in the
Yes.
future.
At this time, there's not anything that we have on the books that I was able to find. Staff did kind of believe that the providing of an access there would kind of be the best use of it at this point in time, since it's currently surrounded by single property owners.
Anybody have any further questions for Gavin? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
All right, Commissioners, what's your pleasure on this?
I make a motion that we go with the staff recommendations and forward this to City Council for approval.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request to send it on to City Council. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Okay. Item number 3 has been requested that we table by staff. We'll need action on that. I hear a...
Make a motion to table.
Okay, we have a motion,
Second.
a second to table this item number 3 here till further notice. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right, item number 4, rezoning a portion of property of R1 to C4 located at 150 South Tulsa, submitted by Susan Heinzen. You have a staff report on that?
Yes, sir.
Did I fillet that name too bad, or is that?
No, I
did
think
do it
that's
right?
correct.
Okay. All right.
So this is a rezoning of a small portion of property at 150 South Tulsa Avenue. So the portion being rezoned is that little yellow box on the screen there. This property currently serves as a dental office. This location is currently bordered by R1 single-family residential to the south, PUD to the west, C2 highway commercial to the northeast, and C4 neighborhood and quiet business to the north and east. To the north is a vacant lot. To the northeast and east are 2 other medical offices, and to the west is the Walmart neighborhood market. The area of property that the applicant is seeking to rezone is a portion of 50-foot alley that was previously vacated. This applicant is requesting to change the zone map to continue to use her property as a dental office, but the applicant would like to square up the zoning for her pieces of property that she owns. The parcel of land is designated as suburban corridor in the Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan. One of the recommended zones for the suburban corridor is the C4 neighborhood and quiet business zone. When considering a rezoning, 3 questions should be taken into account: the future and current land uses of the area, the Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan, and the value or income potential of the property. Future and current land uses of the area. The future land use of this property and surrounding areas is the suburban corridor, which allows for zones RO, C2, and C4. Squaring this property and making it all the same zone would align with the Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan. Bringing this property under one single zone represents best planning practices, as it prevents complicated zoning issues that could arise if the property ever underwent redevelopment. The Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan, the property is situated again in that suburban corridor prescription that has the recommended zones of RO, C2, and C4. Value or income potential of the property. Transitioning from R1 single-family residential to C4 neighborhood and quiet business typically increases the property value due to the wider range of potential uses that become available. However, due to this rezoning area being continued use as a dental office, this small piece of land that is actually being rezoned, the income potential will not change in any significant way to be enough to amount for it to be considered the primary reason for the rezoning. Staff does recommend that the commission forward this application to the City Council for approval to rezone the property from R1 single-family residential to C4 neighborhood and quiet business as a result of the findings that the application is in line with the existing and future land uses within the area, suburban corridor, and rezoning to C4 appears to be appropriate and aligns with the vision outlined in the 2040 comprehensive plan. That is my staff report. Are there any questions?
One question for you is the first part of the picture, the correct one. One of them goes all the way to the end, and one of them just kind of cuts a chunk.
Can you
Out
pull
of it.
my? Okay. Which?
See, like that one just has a chunk, and then the one on the front of the packet shows it going all the way, all the grain, all the way back to the next parking lot, Walmart neighborhood parking lot.
Okay.
Seems like it'd make more sense to go all the way to the parking lot.
So I think that was done by one of our interns. So they actually don't own that portion of property. I think they tried to get a hold of this property owner that owns the property that butts up immediately to Walmart Neighborhood Market, but they kind of own the strip that fronts Tulsa, but they don't own that portion.
You're blaming it on an intern. Is that what, okay.
It's our favorite thing, yeah. But yeah, so they did try to contact that property owner as far as I know, but they weren't able to get them in on this rezoning, so. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, what's your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen?
Make a motion to approve and forward to City Council.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve this request to move on to City Council here. All those in favor, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. All right. Let's move on to the next. All right. Rezoning a property from R2 to C2 located at 2802 West Main Street, submitted by Carol Collins. You have a staff report, Gavin?
Yes, sir, we do. As stated, this is a rezoning at 2802 West Main Street. It's currently the site of Carol Collins Law Firm. This is within the West Main District. It's currently the use type professional office. This property is currently zoned R2 medium density residential and is surrounded to the west and south by C2 highway commercial, to the north by other R2 properties, and to the east by one parcel of C4 neighborhood and quiet business. Surrounding uses include single-family homes to the north and to the west, a medical office to the east, and various commercial uses to the south, including Humphrey Funeral Service and Underhill Chiropractic. This property has been owned and operated by the applicant as a law firm for the better part of 2 decades. The applicant was made aware of the property zoning through a business license application for a business owner subletting space within the existing office space for a similar use type. The applicant expressed concern as they were incorrectly informed by the then planning assistant prior to purchasing in the mid-2000s that the property was zoned commercial. Current planning staff consulted historical maps that are maintained by the city and found that at some point between 1994 and 1999, the property was indeed rezoned from C4 neighborhood and quiet business to R2 medium density residential. Planning staff could not conclude as to why this property rezoned in the first place, as records of the rezoning itself could not be located beyond the available historical maps. So when considering a rezoning, there are 3 questions that should be taken into account. That is the future and current land uses of the area, reimagine Russellville 2040 comp plan, and value or income potential of the property. Currently, surrounding uses on this portion of West Main Street are overwhelmingly commercial in nature. Interestingly, this is the only property with residential zoning that fronts West Main Street between Seattle Avenue and East Spokane Circle, which is an approximately 1.5-mile stretch of West Main Street. This current zone of R2 medium density residential is not strongly supported by current surrounding uses that front West Main Street. This side of West Main is intended to function as a commercial hub that supports the surrounding residential areas of the D Street neighborhood, the Inglewood neighborhood, and the Marina Heights district. For the comp plan, the comprehensive plan prescription for this property is Suburban Corridor. Suburban Corridor supports the RO residential office, C2 highway commercial, and C4 neighborhood and quiet business zones. Staff does concur with the comprehensive plan in this prescription. Finally, value or income potential of the property. Typically, rezoning from residential zones to commercial zones does increase the value of the property due to the wider range of uses that can be implemented. Upon visiting the site, staff did observe a for sale sign near the front door of the office, and during initial conversations with the applicant, it was expressed that the applicant would prefer to be zoned C2 highway commercial instead of C4, despite this being this historic zone of the property prior to its rezoning in the mid-90s, because they intend to sell the property and so submitting the rezoning request for C2 accordingly. I would like to add, just because this staff report was produced before I had a conversation with the applicant was willing to, take the property off the market for the time being. Wanted to note that for the commission. It is also staff's view that commercial zoning makes more sense than the current residential zoning. Staff did find grounds that increasing property value may be a contributing factor in this rezoning request. However, this is clearly not the sole factor in this rezone. In light of all of this, staff does recommend that the commission forward this application to the city council for approval to rezone the property from R2 medium density residential to C2 highway commercial as a result of the findings that the application is in line with existing and future land uses within the area. The proposal aligns with the 2040 comp plan, and rezoning to C2 appears to be appropriate and aligns with the vision outlined in the 2040 comp plan. Are there any questions for staff?
Yes, did the applicant say why she wanted it C2 as opposed to C4, which it originally was?
In our original conversation with the applicant, she did express that the goal was ultimately to sell the property. Staff did propose C4 initially because C4 was the historic zone of the property, and it was our understanding that they believed that it was one zone for all of these years, when in reality it had rezoned prior to their purchasing the property. That's why staff initially recommended the C4, but we go with anytime we get an application for a rezone, we go with the applicant's request and then go from there.
Okay, I understand it seems like there's only 2 properties in between Hastings and whatever that other street is. Fairbanks and Hastings, it's just that property and the eye doctor.
On that front West Main?
On that front West Main.
Correct.
Between those 2 streets.
Correct.
And from what I can tell, the Leblong came in as a C4.
That property has been C4
and put a
as far
business
back as
there
our zone
with
maps
the
go.
understanding that there was a C4 next to him, I would imagine, or an R2. And I'm thinking it would be too permissive to do a C2 next door to that business.
From staff's perspective, the amount of C2 surrounding the property and the fact that the prescription is suburban corridor already for that entire strip of West Main was why we were able to support the applicant's request for C2. That's from staff's perspective.
Any other questions?
Tell me, what's the top 2 or 3 between 2 and C2 and or 2 and 4?
Can you say that one more time? I'm so sorry.
What's the differences between the 2 and the 4?
Sure. So
uses?
C2 is highway commercial. That's probably our second most impactful use behind C3. C2 can be, I believe we've had conversations recently about what's in C2. We can have, yeah, right. It could be anything from, a fuel sales service station to car sales to even a small quarry is permissible in a C2 versus a C4 is much more mixed use oriented. So things of office use types or even a dental facility would be permissible in a C4 alongside, residential uses as well.
Rami Gavin, we've got all around it. I'm just trying to pull up the GIS.
Yeah.
I mean, we're good all the way around it. It fits within the confines of the neighborhood along
For that stretch of West Main,
corridor.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the ultimate goal is to sell the property, but I mean, I feel like we put a burden on the property owner if everything around it, and they're requesting to change the status of it at this point. If you're recommending it, I would make a motion for approval as presented.
Okay. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this rezoning request, send it on to city council. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, we have one no. That means I have to vote, and I'll say aye as well. So,
Do we need a roll call?
yes, please. Go ahead.
Miller.
Aye.
Choate. Black. Aye. Hatley. Duffield. Clear.
No.
Motion passes.
All right. Guys have it. Right. Okay. The next item we have here is rezoning a property from a C2 to R2, located at 1311 through 1315 East 16th, submitted by Barrett Associates on behalf of Janie and Laura Lee Morris Walker. You have a staff report on that?
Yes, sir. So this is another rezoning tonight at 1311 and 1315 East 16th Street. This is the existing location of two vacant buildings. The building at 1311 East 16th appears to have been previously utilized as a commercial building, and the structure at 1315 East 16th appears to have previously been utilized as a single-family home. Surrounding uses include single-family homes zoned R2 and C2, a nonprofit organization, a house of worship, and Hickey Park Baseball Complex. Properties to the north of these are zoned C2 highway commercial and R2 medium density residential. Properties to the south, east, and west are zoned C2 highway commercial. Again, three things must be considered for rezoning: future and current land uses of the area, the Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan, and the value or income potential of the property. Future and current land uses. This stretch of East 16th does serve as kind of a transitional zone from the more commercial side of East 16th to the more residential side as you go east. Immediately to the north of these properties is a residential subdivision, and although this subdivision is comprised of single-family homes, it is zoned R2 medium density residential. The properties in question have not been utilized in a commercial manner in quite some time, and this corridor is not seeing much interest when it comes to commercial development at this time. These properties are within walking distance of a house of worship, Hickey Park, and Russellville High School. As a result, activating this space for much needed missing middle housing would likely be the highest and best use of the property. Reimagine Russellville 2040 comprehensive plan defines this area as suburban corridor and suburban single family. As you can see, it's kind of hard to tell. One of them is purple and one of them is blue up on the screen. But one of the properties is within that suburban corridor section and one is within the suburban single family. As staff has discussed many times recently, the future land use map does need some updating as far as the comp plan goes, and it is on staff's radar, but unfortunately we've got a lot of plates spinning right now, so we are working to get to that to update it. But staff has identified this area as one of the areas that does need updating as part of the comprehensive plan. While suburban corridor related uses include RO, C2, and C4, that could be appropriate. This stretch of East 16th Street, again, is a transitional area from commercial to more residential uses. The comprehensive plan designation of suburban single family only has the related zones of R1, which does not match the current zoning designation pattern of the properties to the north, which are R2. While this rezoning would not exactly match the comprehensive plan prescriptions, it is unlikely that this property will be utilized as commercial space in the near future, and spot zoning two small properties to R1 would not be recommended by staff. These properties being zoned R2 better matches the residential nature of the subdivision to the north. Additionally, development of this property in a residential manner, even if it is small-scale multifamily, will be less impactful to the existing subdivision than redevelopment of the property for a commercial use. Value or income potential of the property. Changing the property from commercial to residential typically would not increase the property value. Staff does recognize that utilizing the property for small-scale multifamily housing, the property could increase the value or income potential of the property in the long term. Staff does not have any objection to rezoning these properties for that use. Staff does not believe that rezoning from C2 to R2 would constitute any significant increase in property value by virtue of rezoning alone. As a result, staff does recommend that the commission forward this application to the City Council for approval to rezone the property from C2 highway commercial to R2 medium density residential as a result of the findings that this rezoning could be in line with future and current land uses in the area. Adjacent properties are zoned in line with this proposal, and while it might not exactly match the future land use plan, staff believes this would be the highest and best use of the property and less impactful to surrounding residential uses. That is my staff report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Victoria. You have any questions? No. Okay, what's your pleasure, ladies, gentlemen?
Move forward to the city council as suggested.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this request to send it on to City Council. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Okay. All right, next. We are in the rezoning business tonight, gentlemen, ladies. Rezoning a property from M2 to WN, located at 400 block of Chesney Puller Drive, submitted by Barrett and Associates on behalf of Real Practices Incorporated. Gavin, you got a staff report on that?
Yes, sir, I do. As stated, this is a rezoning located at the 400 block of Chesney Puller Drive. That is South Chesney Puller Drive within the West Main District. It's currently a vacant lot. The existing zoning of the property and properties to the north is M2, heavy industrial, with a small spot zone of C4, neighborhood and quiet business. To the south and west is C2 highway commercial zoning, and to the south and east is largely C4 neighborhood and quiet business. On the east side of Phoenix Avenue is a patch of C3 large scale and shopping center commercial zone. This property is bound to the north by railroad right-of-way and south by a parking lot and various offices that are medical or dental in nature. To the west are various construction storage facilities, and to the east is Phoenix Avenue and an RV storage lot. Uses to the south and east are largely office or single-family residential in nature. Finally, St. Mary's Medical Center Complex is just south of this property. This property is the proposed site of a new walkable neighborhood. Per the Russellville zoning code, just because walkable neighborhood is not something that we see every day and is relatively new, the WN district is intended to focus on creation of safe, connected neighborhoods that allow multimodal accessibility through small-scale urban form, supported by a smaller lot size requirement. The The focus of this area is primarily residential, but institutional and some commercial uses will be incorporated and are anticipated to provide services to the surrounding residential uses. For non-residential uses, the structure is limited to a size that is compatible with the surrounding development and uses. This section of the West Main District is roughly 1 block away from St. Mary's Medical Center, one of the largest employers in the city of Russellville, which can be reached with a 5-minute walk. The current end of Chesney Puller Drive is approximately a 15-minute walk from 2 different large grocers, Kroger and Walmart Neighborhood Market, via Phoenix Avenue and West Main Street. There are also multiple places of worship within a 10-minute walk from the area proposed to be rezoned. Additionally, it is an approximately 5-minute walk from an existing food truck plaza located on West C Street and an approximately 20-minute walk from Russellville's historic downtown via Phoenix Avenue and West Main Street. Finally, ATU campus can be reached via a 30-minute walk or an approximately 10-minute bike ride. Supporting additional modes of travel would be the close proximity to established bike lanes as well as the Schoolhouse Trail, which begins adjacent to the nearby Kroger. Soft surface trail plans currently being discussed by city staff could bring additional options for those looking to use bikes as their predominant mode of transport. So, as has been stated several times tonight, when considering a rezoning, there are 3 questions that are usually taken into account. That is the future and current land use of the area, the Reimagine Russellville comp plan, and the value or income potential of the property. For the future and current land uses, the current zoning of M2 heavy industrial does not perfectly match with existing land use patterns. To the west of this property are several construction storage warehouses that also house construction offices. There are other residential uses, including single-family homes and duplexes that orbit, so to speak, the St. Mary's Medical Center in similar proximity to this property. North of the railroad right-of-way is largely underdeveloped, except for a large place of worship, a church, being constructed at this time. This area this area of town is largely a patchwork of different uses and zones that are broadly harmonious with one another despite this. North of the railroad right-of-way is other M2 zone properties. However, this also might not match the current land use patterns in the area, given its overall proximity to residential, parochial, and scholastic uses nearby. It should also be noted that this property does lie within the 500-year floodplain. Per the floodplain manager, this represents a 0.2% risk of flooding annually, not once per 500 years, and available flood data indicates portions of the property could be inundated with 2 to 4 feet of water in the event a 500-year flood does occur. The developer of this property is working with the city floodplain manager and has expressed to staff that parts of the development will be modestly raised. For the Russellville comp plan, the comp plan prescription for this property is, once again, suburban corridor. The suburban corridor does not recommend the WN zone. However, the walkable neighborhood zone did not exist at the time of adoption of the Reimagine Russellville comp plan back in 2020. Recommended zones include RO, residential office, C2, highway commercial, and C4, neighborhood and quiet business. Despite this, staff has held for some time, as has been stated, that areas of the comprehensive plan should be looked at for potential updates, and staff does believe that this area of town may be due for a re-examination for prescriptive areas. Staff would also like to note that the C4 neighborhood and quiet business serves as another lower impact zone geared towards mixed use, as both zones allow for a mix of commercial and residential uses, with the walkable neighborhood zone featuring more options for residential developments. Finally, value or income potential of the property. When compared to the existing M2 heavy industrial zoning, rezoning to WN walkable neighborhood may not necessarily increase the property value and would be dependent on the development itself. Industrial zones typically provide a wider range of potential uses that are geared towards large-scale manufacturing or other profitable enterprises similar in nature. Staff does not believe that rezoning from the M2 zone to the WN zone would constitute any significant increase in property value by virtue of the rezoning alone. In light of all of this, staff does recommend that the commission forward this application to the City Council for approval to rezone the property from M2 heavy industrial to WN walkable neighborhood as a result of the findings that the application is in line with the existing and future land uses within the area. The proposal aligns with the Reimagine Russellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and rezoning to the WN walkable neighborhood zone appears to be appropriate and aligns with the vision outlined in the comprehensive plan. Are there any questions for staff?
Guess Kevin, just given some of the recent conversations we had with the flood stuff, just so we don't make life difficult on Dave later, are there any conditions or anything that you guys have out there, or anything that we need to do from this commission's perspective to make sure that we are putting the guardrails in place to be able to swiftly move this through, so someone doesn't have to come back through later on?
Sure. From the Planning Commission's perspective, I'm not really sure. I do know from Board of Adjustment's perspective, there would be things, because if there were, the city floodplain manager kind of manages how development is supposed to go within our flood zones in the city, the low-lying zones, specifically the 500-year zone. For this particular property, again, similar to the other one that we had recently come through Board of Adjustment, I think that maybe a training for Board of Adjustment to properly identify when a variance for floodplain would be appropriate and when it wouldn't be appropriate could be called for. I would be happy to have that discussion with the city floodplain manager.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What is your pleasure, ladies, gentlemen?
I'll move be approved.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this and send it on to City Council. All those in favor, acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. Okay. All right. Is that, Dave, did you have anything? I mean, we already voted on it now. John, did you have anything you wanted to? Y'all good? Okay. All right. Last item up for bid. Here we go. I have a zone text amendment to adopt proposed changes to the Russellville zoning code submitted by the city of Russellville. Talk to us, Gavin. What do you got there?
Yes, sir. As stated, this is the zone text amendment from our most recent long-range planning meeting. As a forward, amendments to the zoning code shall be considered after the Long-Range Planning Committee, LRPC, has reviewed to confirm that updates proposed are in alignment with the Reimagine Russellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan and other applicable city regulations, and will forward to the Commission for consideration after being thoroughly reviewed by the LRPC. The LRPC meets quarterly to review and periodically update the zoning or land subdivision and development codes. On June 11th, 2026, the LRPC met to discuss proposed changes. The following items were recommended by the committee to be advanced to the Planning Commission for consideration. Article 3.11.2, Vehicles on Premises. This update is intended to allow for pragmatic enforceability of existing regulations on motorhome storage in front yard areas of private residences by changing the allowable time for a motorhome to be stored in the front yard from 7 consecutive days to 7 days in a calendar month. Further, this amendment will also create new regulations regarding the quantity of automobiles that can be stored on a property where they are in view of public rights-of-way. Article 3.23.2, Sidewalks Applicability. This update creates guiding language for developers to refer to the Russellville Connected Trails System Master Plan when developing on identified trails corridors for side path standards where applicable. Article 6.1.1, Off-street parking requirements, minimum standards. This update creates a new parking space reduction option for multifamily developments that consists primarily of single bedroom or studio units. Article 10, Administration and Enforcement. This update adds a new section of code under Article 10 that clarifies, regardless of what department that it is housed under, that the city code enforcement officers shall serve as the enforcing officials of this zoning code. Finally, Article 14, Area Requirements. This update rectifies a contradiction in the area requirements table for the R2 zone that specified maximum density for 5+ unit multifamily developments when developments of this nature are not currently permissible in the R2 zone. It is staff's recommendation that this application be forwarded to City Council with the recommendation of approval in regards to the updates to Articles 3.11.2, 3.23.2, 6.1.1, 10, and 14 of the Russellville Zoning Code. Based on the findings that the LRPC recommends these additions and updates, the updates provide clear guidance to staff The changes are consistent with the objectives outlined in the Reimagine Russellville 2040 Comprehensive Plan and the Russellville Zoning Code. Are there any questions for staff?
Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you.
We do have somebody signed up to speak on it. I don't know if we got that answered before the meeting started or not, Paul. I mean, some of this stuff has been brought up, or you see the changes that are going to be proposed to long range. Is there anything you'd like to add to that? Just step up to the microphone and state your name for the record, sir, if you would.
My name's Paul Baldwin. In reference to y'all's 311.2, the only thing that they were looking to recommend to change was the 7-day rule. If you look at 311.2, the title of that rule, of that zoning thing says storage and parking trailers, motorhomes, commercial vehicles, and recreational vehicles. If you look under the sub of that, they have provisions. There's 8 of them. Under those 8 provisions, motorhomes is not mentioned. Only commercial vehicles. And before they, for commercial vehicles, they have a provision says that it has to be less than 9. If they're less than 9 feet in height, they're able to park there. If they're over 9 feet in height, they're not. A lot of motorhomes are 10, 11 feet, 11 and a half on some of them, on the larger ones. It also states that they can't be more than 26 foot in length. Some of these motorhomes that are parking in the neighborhoods are 28 to 30 feet. They're larger motorhomes. One other thing that they used to have in this code was a weight limit. It says if it was over 2 tons, it was not permissible to be parked in a residential neighborhood. That's been taken out as well. I just wish you would take consideration to look at those additions to not just the 7-day rule, because that doesn't take care of a motorhome driving through a neighborhood and having low-lying wires or low-hanging wires, and they snatch the wires off the poles or snatch it off somebody's house. That's happened in our neighborhood. We've had that happen before. The other thing is, by them bringing in, 14,000, 15,000-pound vehicles in our neighborhood, it's tearing our roads up. Our road is under for resurfacing in the next year or so, but, I mean, it's just, they've done built it up so much now, they're going to have to cut it down 6 inches to make it good. But the motorhomes they're not only in our neighborhood, in my neighborhood, they're all over the city. The rules that are on the books now, they're not being followed. And nobody's enforcing them. They're being parked next to the roads. They're being parked next to the easement, in the easements next to the road. Sometimes they're even parked in the road. That's what I wish you'd take consideration in that 311.2 to add those additional restrictions on motorhomes coming into the residential neighborhoods.
Okay. Just so you know, the protocol on that, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I do want to say that protocol is go to the city, and you talk to the planner about that.
Yes.
And then he can get it put in front of the right people to get it
Right.
looked at and get it evaluated and voted in, or at least brought up in a meeting.
Yes.
And where we can, act on that. So, I mean,
Yes.
we're not a governing body. We are, we're here to sharpen the pencil for city
Yes.
council is all we're doing. We're a filter.
Understand.
So, okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I
All right,
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Sir.
I have a question. So the new proposed updates, are they enforceable?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. It may be in which specific one? Just all of them?
Yeah, just all of them.
Yes.
He brought that up, so. Are they being enforced?
My understanding is that, yes, they are being enforced, and that these new rules can be enforced because they're not, like a commercial building design, we don't, there's no grandfathering in with these proposed updates. They can be enforced immediately.
Okay. All right. Is there any action needs taken on this? Are you just advising us on this, or is it a?
I think you guys will need to forward with a recommendation to City Council. Am I correct? Justin?
All right. You heard the man. Let's get to work here, guys. Anybody have a recommendation on this?
I would make a motion for approval
Okay.
as presented.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send this forward to city council. All those in favor acknowledge by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carried. All right. And if there is no other bit, I want to say I'm sorry to John and to Dave both. I didn't, I should have given you guys a time to chat there at the end of item number 7 there, but it went through just the same. So, all right, we are adjourned.